I was thinking about how few control structures you need to get to a Turing complete programming language. You can do it with just one instruction, I think. Decrement and branch not zero. Where there's an argument which is a register and another argument which is the destination of the jump. I think that does it. I remember in 1991, 1992, I played around with that. And I think I used BASIC. But if hacking bytecode interpreters is not your beef, then you get the job done pretty quickly, but you spend quite a while coding afterwards. So there's somewhere in between, there's a fourth. What I'm looking for is a level of functionality in a bytecode machine that is really tiny but still expressive enough to be able to compile metaprogramming fragments, so little fragments of force which emit assembler. And that way of doing force under Linux also works under QEMU with Linux kernel virtual machines. That is Linux ABIs. There's a QEMU command which will run a Linux binary under emulation on any processor. And about the trits and Norman Wildberger's cryptic video about symmetries of the tetrahedron and threeness in fourness. He's getting at something to do with I think Galois connections. You have to ask Adrian Kent, because in 1999, I think, I wrote him an email about a non-additive measures of information, and it was to do with resonances in bits, and he thought it was about something else altogether. But the email must be around somewhere. I sent it from my computer laboratory email address. I don't ever remember deleting all my old sent mails. But I still don't want to go there. And Galois connections still do my head in. But I do remember when I was messing around with implementations of binary search, you often get this construct. It comes up if you're writing a force interpreter. In fact, if you need a list. If you have an ordered list of names, a linked list ordered alphabetically, you want to be able to look up opcodes. You also want to be able to do the reverse, in which case you have an list ordered by opcodes or destination addresses or whatever the value is, mapping it back to the key, which is the string. So there are two sortings on either side of that bijection. And when I implemented binary search, and what I was using it for was actually a quite common thing in any application binary interfaces, when people give string names to constants which are arguments to functions. So you know, you'll have what's a good example? Well, I don't know, different types of object named, and they're named in text in a hash define. So you'll have something like hash define, or the more modern way to do it is to use enumerated types in C. But in the old style K&R C, you would have hash define type int 1, hash define type bool 2, hash define type char 3. And if you're then running some kind of interpreter or compiler that's going to take these as human readable forms and map them onto the codes, you're looking up one way, and if you're printing out structures with these constants in them, you want to map the other way, so that instead of just saying type 1, you say type int. But to cut a long story short, what I realized at the time was that there's a way of looking at these two orderings as a Galois connection. The ordering by key and the ordering by value seem to have a kind of Galois characteristic. And if you think about Norman's comment about the bijection in the two different ways of representing permutations, what he doesn't mention in that video is that every permutation is a composition of two-cycle permutations. Or composition of two-cycle and one-cycle permutations. One-cycle permutations being the identity. So you can decompose any permutation into a series of swaps. And the way that works is a bit like a bubble sort, I think. I remember seeing some connection between that and a bubble sort. I'm just casting my mind back to the days when I could actually think. Isn't it incredible that every operating system doesn't come with the most basic programming language you'd ever want, which is one that just converts hex to binary. And you could add comments and you could add optional white space. But just think how useful a program is that does that, hex to binary. Yet no one wrote it. I suppose as soon as somebody writes something like that, they think, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have labels on bytes, and then just write the label instead of the byte. And then they think, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have functions? And so you leave them at it for a while, and they get a job at NASA, and they come up with something like Perl. I think that's how it happened. You have to ask NASA. Fucking bunch of space cadets.